Yeah, let's get going. I think you're up to introduce us and get us kicked off here, Pat.
Absolutely. So welcome everyone. As we've already mentioned, my name's Pat Sweet, and I'm joined by my illustrious co-host, Jeff Perry. And tonight we're going to cover mentorship in a webinar we're calling Daring to Learn, How Mentorship Can Fast Track Your Engineering Career. So you want to skip ahead, Jeff? A couple things we want to cover tonight. Obviously, we're going to be talking all about mentorship. We're going to cover what it is and why it might be a little bit, maybe a little bit less familiar to you compared to some other things, and why you might not be getting mentorship today. Why it's the secret sauce of career growth. Really, what can it do for you to improve your prospects and your career? So that's kind of the first half of the presentation, and then the second half we'll get into the nitty gritty in finding a mentor and what to look for in a mentor, what makes a good mentor, and then finally, once you've identified someone who you would like mentorship from, how to get started and how to go about building and sustaining a long-term mentoring relationship. I'll be taking the first half there, and Jeff will come back at the second half. And if you stick around to the end, we've got a couple freebies we wanted to give to you in our gratitude for joining us tonight. So the first one, something Jeff put together, is really, really good. 48 amazing questions to ask your mentor. So really just conversation starters. I don't know if you're familiar with the coffee table party conversation starter decks that you can get at your local bookstore. It's kind of like that, but for your mentor, right? To grease the wheels a little bit and get those conversations started. And of course, I've got an offering as well. It's a free ebook that I wrote some time ago, really introducing leadership for engineers. So really to help you at any stage in your career, develop and grow as a leader, which many of you who are looking for mentors, are interested in mentorship, are ambitious folks looking to improve, probably interested in leadership as well. And of course, those are both free, so you just stick around to the end. We'll have links for you, and you'll be able to see where to get that. Okay. As I mentioned, my name is Pat Sweet, so I work in the defense industry here in Halifax, Canada. Been working in project management, systems engineering for a number of years now. My role involves both people management and project management and technical kind of engineering management as well, all under one roof. So it's a pretty cool gig for me. My background's in electrical engineering, but somewhere along the way, I did my MBA as well at the Royal Military College of Canada. I'm a certified systems engineering professional and a project management professional as well. And they ran out of letters after that, so that's where I that's where I stopped. Jeff, maybe you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah. So. Welcome again to everyone here. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Jeff Perry. About a year and a half ago, I started my business, More Than Engineering, to do leadership and career coaching for engineers. But in my previous life and in the corporate world, did a number of things. Got a mechanical engineering degree, but ended up in software development for a few years in the automotive industry, and then moved into a smaller company doing product design, product management, and instrumentation, and some related software, and then manufacturing process improvement as well. So across a lot of different engineering and technical disciplines. And then like Pat, got my MBA degree recently, and both Pat and I host podcasts, and mine is called the Engineering Career Coach Podcast. Just picked that up in partnership with the Engineering Management Institute, which I would recommend you follow as well. But yeah, so glad to have you guys here, and we're excited to talk about these things today, and really get into it.
I suppose I skipped right over my podcast. I didn't even mention that. There was this opportunity for shameless self-promotion. I totally left it there. No,
well, I wanted to make sure you got it. And by the way, Pat's got some great stuff on there, and so it would definitely encourage you to follow his podcast and listen to that if you're not already, because he shares some great insights. And pretty quick hit. I find pretty quick hit episodes. They're not too long like some podcasts are, like mine maybe, and And Pat really makes sure he gets to the nitty gritty of things and gets you the important stuff you need to know. And that's one of the things I love about Pat in general.
Well, thanks, Jeff. Make me blush.
Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't we get into it then, and get started on what mentorship is, and maybe why you're not getting it right now. And the best way to understand mentorship, I really like this quote from John Crosby, who said, "Mentoring is a brain to pick, an ear to listen, and a push in the right direction." Right. So that really gets to the heart of what mentoring is. It's about a relationship, right? Where a more experienced person, whether in terms of just technical expertise or a certain number of years in a field, helps someone along a path who is less experienced, right? It's really no more complicated than that. It's someone in your life, generally in your work life, but could be a personal relationship as well, who is further along down the road than you are, and it's someone who can help a mentee, right? Someone who wants that growth, that understanding, by sharing lessons learned, and kind of making the mistakes for you, right? We all understand the value of looking back and figuring out, how to do things better. Well, in a mentor mentee relationship, you get to take advantage of the lessons that mentor has already learned on your behalf. They've got the scars to prove it, and they're there to show you and really explain how to do it not the way they did it, right? So that's getting at the crux of mentorship. Now, my favorite example of a mentor is Yoda. Now, I know most of us are engineers, if not all of us. I'm a super nerd and a huge Star Wars fan. So if you're not a big fan of Star Wars, who we have on the screen here are Yoda and Luke Skywalker. Okay, so Luke is learning to become a Jedi Knight and be one with the Force. So at the beginning of the original Star Wars trilogy, he's just a normal guy. He's a farmer, and he kind of learns that he's destined for greatness, but really doesn't have much in the way of role models in his life. And he's told he needs to go spend time with Yoda, the little green dude on the left. And he shows up, and he really doesn't know what to make of Yoda. Doesn't realize just how experienced and knowledgeable that he is. But once he starts kind of listening to him and training with him, he starts to get it. He starts to see how much there is to learn, and B, how much faster he could learn that stuff through Yoda's mentorship. All right. So this is classic, because Yoda has a lot of these cute little turns of phrase, like "do or do not, there is no try," right? These deep kind of philosophies that he's come up with over the course of his life, that he's looking to impart to Luke. Now, he doesn't answer Luke's questions directly. He doesn't do the work for Luke. He doesn't gift wrap it for Luke. He really finds a way to see the potential in him and extract it by making Luke do the work, but making sure he's doing the right work in the right way. That's mentorship, right? It's not about doing stuff for you, but it's about seeing that potential and really facilitating that potential. So this to me is the perfect example of a mentor. So how is mentorship different, right? We know about a lot of kind of related roles, but mentorship really is unique. It's similar to coaching in that both mentors and coaches provide guidance, and coaching is incredibly valuable. Jeff's a coach. That's a huge part of his business. I'm a coach as well. The difference between coaching and mentorship, though, is that mentors have specific domain knowledge where they might not be as strong on the guidance aspect. So a guy like Jeff has taken specific training in how to coach, in how to provide that guidance. A mentor might not have that, but through their experience and through their having traveled that road, they're able to guide and they're able to transfer domain knowledge. Okay, so it's that combination of the two that's very powerful in mentoring. A consultant, for example, is different because they're really there. They've got the domain knowledge, otherwise you wouldn't hire them. But they're there to parachute in, use that knowledge, and get out. They're not necessarily there to help you acquire it, right? That guidance piece is missing. And in management, everyone knows what management is about, but management isn't necessarily there to guide you in terms of your career development. They're there to direct the work and make sure you keep the one of the sayings we have here in Nova Scotia is you keep it between the ditches, right? Meaning you keep the car on the road, you keep it driving in the right direction at the right speed, and don't fall into the ditch. That's what management is about, and that requires domain knowledge, and an application of that domain knowledge. But again, the focus is different. It's not about imparting that knowledge. Of course, under good management, you will learn things, right? And you will be guided, but it's not the focus. So mentorship really is special in that combination between the guidance piece and the transfer of domain knowledge. So when you look at mentoring relationships, one of the things that is perplexing to a lot of people is they can't really quite put their finger on a definition of what a good mentoring relationship looks like. They kind of know it when they see it. It's a lot like leadership. You know good leadership when you see it, when you are exposed to it, but it's kind of hard to describe. So mentoring relationships are a bit like that, and there's a lot of variety in these kinds of relationships. They can be very structured, or they could be very kind of loose. It could be ad hoc, as in you could call up a mentor one day because you've got a specific question, or it could be planned out. I've got a bit of a story about a company that I work for that had a mentoring program. It was very structured. Doesn't make it necessarily better or worse, but both extremes exist and can work. More often than not, mentoring relationships are initiated and maintained by the mentee. So where a manager really would control the manager-employee relationship, the mentee often controls the mentor-mentee relationship because they are seeking something in particular. Often driven by questions and situations, very situational. And one of the cool things about a strong mentoring relationship is you get a little bit of both the forest and the trees, right? You've got someone who, through that experience, can give you the bigger picture, but also zoom in and help you with the specific nitty-gritty details because, like I said, they've been there, done that, and they've got the scars to prove it. So mentoring relationships really can take on a number of different forms, but these are the things that really characterize a mentor-mentee relationship. So one of the things I mentioned off the top is that chances are you're not already getting mentorship, and a couple of reasons for that. The first and most obvious one is it's not strictly necessary. You don't need a mentor in order to progress in your career. You don't need a mentor in order to run a company. One of the things Jeff and I are going to argue tonight, and you're probably here because you already believe it yourself, is that mentorship is incredibly powerful and incredibly valuable. And maybe that's not super well understood in industry, but it's true. Now, what we can't argue is that it's completely compulsory, right? And that your career will fail without it. That's not true, which is why it's probably not already a part of your work life. Another thing is that it's initiated by you. You literally need to take the initiative to find a mentor and launch a relationship with them. No one's going to gift wrap this for you. Now, this is true of many things, but if you combine this with the next two bullets, the fact that mentorship is kind of poorly understood, and there are probably few examples in your work life to draw from and emulate, it's going to be very hard for you to initiate that relationship. It's going to be hard for you to know what to do or where to go. So that's why you're probably not in a strong mentoring relationship right now. And hopefully Jeff and I, through the remainder of the talk today, can fill some of those gaps so that you can take that initiative and take those next steps forward with a degree of confidence. So we've argued that mentorship is important, but we haven't really said why yet. We've talked about what mentoring is and what mentors are, but how does it actually help you? So let's dig into that a little bit. Um, uh, a lot of this may be obvious, but some of it less so. And we've already talked about this first bit, is that mentors help you apply lessons other people have learned, right? This is hugely valuable, because what it means, and this is the visual that I like to take in this second point. Mentors help you choose the right path and the right tools to go down that path. So if you've got a clear vision of where you want to go with your career, that's probably partly how you chose your mentor. If you're in a mentoring relationship, they can help you kind of take the fast track to where they are by explaining to you what they did, what worked, what didn't, and how to pursue their path. It's a little bit like saying, you need to take the third trail from the west, and don't forget your snowshoes. Because if you didn't get that advice, you might not choose that trail. And even if you were lucky enough to choose that trail the first time, if you don't have your snowshoes, you're probably in big trouble without them, right? So this is one of the things that mentorship really helps with. Um, Another maybe less obvious thing is that when you build a strong relationship with a mentor, you're building a relationship with someone who is, in all likelihood, a senior in your organization. Um, that's a good thing to have. It's good to rub elbows with higher level decision makers within your organization for a couple reasons. Um, One, it gives you insight into your organization and how it works. And two, it puts you on the radar of decision makers, the movers and shakers within your organization, um, in a way that is demonstrating just at baseline that you've got a certain level of ambition. You wouldn't have reached out for a mentor if you didn't have a certain level of interest in progressing in your career. Now, that doesn't mean you necessarily want to become a people leader or a manager. Maybe it means you want to be a technical expert and you're following that path. Either way, this is going to help you and it's going to put you on the map. Um, Obviously, it's going to help you grow knowledge. Mentors are really good at removing roadblocks and helping to understand the problems that you're facing probably a bit better than you do. Again, because they've seen it. And one of the things that I like best about mentorship is it provides accountability. There's a really good book from a fellow named Charles Gilkey called Start Finishing. And in this book, it's all about how to kind of get to done for big projects. Very good read. But one of the ideas in this book is he talks about the value of a success pack, basically surrounding yourself with people who you are going to tell, I'm pursuing X, and then following up with these people on a regular basis to let them know how well you're progressing. Well, a success pack is effectively a group of mentors. And when you explain to a mentor, I'm going to do X, you better bet your bottom dollar that they're going to ask you, hey, how you doing? Did you do that thing I suggested? Did you read that book I recommended? Did you take that class? Did you volunteer for that thing? And if you say no, 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 it's going to make you feel about that big. And and that's good because that provides that accountability. That's going to be an extra driver to push you to do the things that you're being told you really have to do. It's for the same reason why if you want to develop an exercise habit or run a marathon, it's much better to train with another person because they'll drag your sorry butt out of bed when it's cold in the morning to go on that morning run when maybe otherwise you just roll over and hit snooze, right? Mentors can help provide that same effect. So at the end, mentors help you go faster and go further. And I want to tell you a little story about that. This is it's kind of a funny picture. Jeff had a good laugh about that. That attractive young man on the left is a much younger me. Obviously, I'm not quite as follically wonderful anymore. My wife is still beautiful and still has a full head of hair, so that's good for her. Wasn't my wife at the time. And the man on the left is a man named Flavio Forrest. So the relationship here is when I first graduated from engineering school, I started working for a company, a small engineering consulting firm that had offices across Canada, and Flavio was one of the partners in this firm. Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was very, very fortunate that this company had just rolled out a new mentoring program. Okay, and I'd never worked in industry before. I thought, well, heck, every company must have something like this. I didn't realize how special this was. Anyway, the program was set up to link up junior engineers with senior associates and partners, so that you could kind of get onboarded in a very particular way, and get used to the company culture and understand how things work. Um, Looking back, very, very innovative. Now, Flavio and I hit it off very, very well. I thought the man was fascinating. He had a ton of experience to share, some great stories, some great recommendations, and he always had something for me to read. And one of the things that, looking back, I realize now is Flavio got me, really got my career oriented in a direction I had never planned on. He's the one who got me interested in the business side of engineering and in leadership and in management. And one day he recommended a book called Good to Great from Jim Collins, which really opened my eyes in terms of, how great companies work, how strong leaders really influence their teams, what it takes to be successful in the competitive industry, and what it takes to be successful as a team. Looking back, my whole career trajectory, the fact that I got into product management, project management, got my MBA, and pursuing things like this tonight, right? My whole interest in leadership, I can trace back to that man and that relationship. And frankly, it didn't really occur to me here until Jeff and I decided to put this together. And we were thinking about stories of how mentors have really shaped our careers. Looking back, so after this, I'm gonna write Flavio a letter. I haven't I haven't spoken to him in a number of years, but maybe that's another point to make, is that this is over 15 years ago that I had this mentoring relationship with him, and I'm still talking about him, and I'm still benefiting from what ultimately ended up being two dozen meetings, right? Very, very informal, several years back. So it just goes to show just how powerful that kind of a relationship can be. Jeff, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. And what a great story with Flavio. And by the way, we're about halftime, everyone. So feel free to stretch for a second. I'm gonna move through this rather quickly, but I hope Pat has convinced you that mentorship is important, and given you some reasons for that to believe it. But now we're going to get into nitty gritty of, hey, how do we find that mentor? What does that process look like? So let's get into it. So you need to be really clear on some of the qualities that are important to you, and just in mentors in general. So obviously, if you're going to learn from them and they have that domain knowledge, you want someone who's experienced and has done some of the things that you really want to do. You're looking for someone who's going to support you, listen to you, invested in your success, going to give you feedback, and kind of like Yoda with Luke Skywalker, not just give you the answers, but guide you to the answers, give you those opportunities to learn for yourself, and providing that really transformative guidance that you can have, that a mentor can help you through that process. And obviously, sometimes a mentor can help expand your network. Some of the things like Pat was saying, the senior leaders at your company or other companies that you're looking to connect with and maybe seek out as mentors, they're just going to have a different network because they've been in the industry or in the company longer than you, and they have access to different sorts of people, which might then give you access to some of those people through that mentoring relationship. And that can be transformative to some of the opportunities you have to progress in your career, to take on new challenges, or make a switch if something is the right fit for you, or if you're feeling kind of stuck and need an adjustment. And there's a lot of great things that can come out of that. So these are some qualities to look for, but you also, when you're trying to identify who is that person or who could be that person, you kind of need to run it through some filters, right? But ask some very basic questions. Just start with, who do you know? Who do you know already who's doing the sorts of things that you're looking to try out or do, or that you know that you could learn from in some way? Is the easiest list to start from is the people that you already know, but maybe just haven't engaged in that sort of relationship with them, right? The next question or next layer here is, who do you want to know? Who uh, maybe you are aware of them. They're a leader in your company you respect. You've heard good things about them, and you would like to get to know them better, but you've never actually talked with them. But you feel like, hey, this person is doing things that you know, or maybe you see them sharing things on LinkedIn, or maybe you see have heard of someone else. Like it, a lot of times we have these people that we know of, but we don't actually know. And so the that's what that question tries to get us to. Who do we want to know? That may bring forth a great mentor option for you. Always focusing in on, getting clear for you. What do you want to learn about? That can that person teach you that? And then who is doing what you want to do, the things that you're interested in, either continuing on the path that you're on, or for a lot of people, they're considering career shifts at some point. And so you can ask about what that career shift looks like. What does the industry look like? All sorts of things that potential mentors can guide you through, either internal or external. We'll talk about that here too. Because I am a believer that internal mentors are fabulous, but external mentors outside of your existing company are also important. So both can provide different benefits for you. And so ideally you would have one or more of both, okay? Because someone internal to the company, whether in your organization or direct vertical or not, but inside the company, they're going to be able to help you break down some of those issues or barriers that you might have inside of that company, certainly grow your internal network, introduce you to other people in different functions or roles that you would be interested in considering, or at least learning about, or maybe you just need to interface with to do a great job. And so inside that company, they can provide that network and also the guidance about how to do things well and what the expectations are inside of that company, right? But external, they're going to come at it from a different angle. They're going to be unbiased about you and your goals and how you should progress, because someone internal, they may, if hopefully they like you, they're going to want to keep you around. They're not going to want you to move out. But if you're feeling stuck or not not in a great place in your career, someone external, they're not going to care whether you stay in your existing company or go somewhere else. They're going to want what's best for you, just in general. That's it. And they're going to also, even internal or considering the work that you're doing right now, they can provide insights into other ways of doing things that maybe aren't standard inside the company or function that you're currently using. And so they can provide other insights that from a different company or a different perspective that you may not be able to get inside the company you're at. And then you can bring that learning into your team in a new way. So those are just a few things to consider, but I'm a big believer in internal and external mentors if you can find them, okay? So then if you've asked those questions of yourself, you've tried to find who these people might be, at some point you have to make the ask. And you have to ask and see if they'll start off, but at the very beginning, you're not asking someone, on LinkedIn or through their email, will you be my mentor? Like at the very beginning, let's start with a conversation, have some sort of relationship with them before you jump right to there. But so let's start with an informal, less than an hour, even 20 to 30 minutes is a great start. Over Zoom, hopefully, or phone call these days, certainly. If you can get together in person at some point, that's always better. But, make it informal and just have a conversation. But come prepared with some questions, but you also want to be flexible with how the conversation goes. But be ready to ask some conversation about who they are, what their background is, some of the things you would want to learn from them, And hopefully that conversation just kind of flows. But don't just say, okay, I have these 5 questions, go boom, boom, boom. But be prepared and be intentional about how you go into that conversation. And if you're enjoying yourself and if they're enjoying themselves, maybe you can ask for more and ask for another meeting and say, hey, I really appreciated this. I feel like I could learn a lot from you if we continue to connect. Would it be possible if we could do this on a periodic basis and see what they think about that? See if they're willing to have more conversations with you. And that's it's really that simple as far as making that ask, right? And then you need to follow up. So hopefully if you ask, if they say yes, then it's always nice to leave any meeting, certainly that first one and any other subsequent meetings you have with your mentor, with some form of assignment, because this shows that you're willing to take action and value the insights that they give you. If you actually follow through, if they tell you to read a book and you read that book, this is that accountability piece that Pat was talking about earlier. If they give you an idea, advice, a suggestion, and then you follow up and do that, you should be holding yourself accountable to them, not just waiting for them to ask or follow up with you, right? So, and also you want to clarify as you begin this relationship, what are your main goals and your desires that you really want out of the mentoring relationship? Consider what you can give. And sometimes you may not be able to give, great access to your network, but you never know. I mean, and some mentors, the great mentors, they're not really seeking to get anything, but what they really love is to build a relationship and to see people make progress. Even just you actually holding yourself accountable and following through with the things that they ask you to do. That's really what they're asking for. And in that way, you're giving to that relationship and they're going to appreciate it. So follow up with them after that first meeting, try and clarify things, and then get started and have some fun as you grow this relationship. But over time, we need to keep building this thing. We've maybe had 1 or 2 sessions, but this is a process. We've kind of gotten started, but we need to keep going and develop this relationship in a new way. So you need to kind of respect the fact that it is a process. Not everything's going to be perfect or smooth sailing from the very start. You're going to learn a lot about each other. You're going to learn about and clarify some of the things that work best for you in that mentoring relationship. And there's going to be new things that get uncovered and new needs that you have, or maybe they have, in that relationship. So just kind of trust and respect the process, and hopefully it can turn into a long-term relationship. Just kind of watch it grow and develop over time. Don't think you're going to get all of this instant knowledge, and just sucked into your brain by osmosis by being with your mentor in 2 or 3 sessions, and that's it. We want it to be a longer-term thing. But it's always nice to clarify expectations. It's nothing like expectations that can lead to being angry or even resentful towards someone. So it's best to get things out in the open, really clarify, make sure you're clear on the frequency and the length of meetings. You don't want to overburden your mentor, but you want to be clear about what you hope to get. And if they're okay with that, then you can ask for that and try and be consistent with that, okay? And then other things like non-meeting communication. How often can you email other questions between meetings or conversations that you had with them? Other situations where you might be able to pop in, have a quick conversation, other things, make sure you're clear if on that sort of thing, and what you expect and what they're willing to do, what they can give, right? Always nice to give them topics that you're looking for, help them prepare and be thinking about things between meetings, and for you to be thinking about things between meetings as well, so that you can both be preparing for each interaction appropriately. And just in general, those goals for the relationship, we talked about that before. We just want to have be clear and have these things explained and connected up front, right? And like I said, we really want to be just investing in this relationship. And I'm a big believer in the principle of transformational relationships, not just transactional. Okay, and this comes from actually a leadership theory called transformational leadership theory. And basically the idea is there are a few different things that need to be in place for leaders to build teams that are truly transformational. But we think about this from a relationship perspective. You go to the store, you check out with your groceries or something else that you're buying. You go up to the teller and you swipe your card and you move along. Like that's just a transaction. And maybe you saw their name tag, maybe you said hi, had a little conversation about how their day's going. But for the most part, that relationship is just, they were helping assist with the transaction, which is why we now have automated checkout stands at grocery stores and stuff now, right? Um, because the person there before was just helping with the transaction for the most part. Um, but when it comes to relationships, and certainly mentoring relationships and other sorts of relationships in our life, we want to be transformational. It's a give and take where both parties really benefit. So we don't want to just show up, get your questions answered and move along. We really want to be giving and contributing and be personally invested in this relationship and its success. And as Pat mentioned before, as the mentee, you're really driving this relationship and getting the most out of it. And so it's up to you to do this and own this experience so that you can really grow this into something pretty awesome. And just to give you an example, Pat shared a mentorship example, and I'll share one of my own. A little over a year ago, I was pretty new into starting my business. I had left the corporate world, and I live in kind of a smaller town, and I was wanting to network and connect with uh, some of the local entrepreneurs. And I didn't know a lot of them in my local community, but as a smaller town, I felt like, hey, maybe there's opportunities I can get to know some people, right? So I did some LinkedIn sleuthing, and I looked for entrepreneurs and business owners in the local area that were on LinkedIn, and I reached out and connected with a few of them. We had little conversations here and there, but there was one in particular that we met up um, at a cafe and ended up talking for over an hour in that first meeting. And we both just kind of hit it off there. We were both kind of amazed by the, the relationship connection that we felt like we had immediately, and some of the things that we wanted out of life for ourselves and our families. And there were some things that he was working on that he felt like, hey, maybe I could help with. And so we started collaborating on some things, and have done so since then. Nothing's kind of totally turned the corner and gone out, just kind of on the side from my coaching business, but I've appreciated every single interaction with him I've had, and he's given me a lot to think about. He's connected a lot of people with me, which has been really helpful in me continuing to learn and grow in myself and in my business. And I've tried to do everything I can when there's an opportunity that I feel like he would be interested in, or someone I meet that might be great for him and his business and other things that he's doing, to share that with him. And always looking for opportunities, always in the back of my mind, because of the way that he's invested in me, and I try to invest in him to help each other in this way. And that to me is just an example in my own personal life of a transformational type of relationship that I've really appreciated and learned a lot from. So hopefully that gives you kind of an idea, right? So moving on, you always want to be asking for feedback from your mentors, and then the next couple of slides I'll give you some of those questions you can be asking. But a mentor is someone outside of you, can be really helpful. You're going to need to be a little bit vulnerable, a little bit open, but this is really how we learn, right? We have to share our difficulties, we have to share our challenges, and be open to new ways of approaching things. And hopefully your mentor can help guide you through those challenges and help you identify things that you might not have thought about that can really lead you to new ways of moving through. So let's get into a few example questions, and I'll share just about 8 of them here. And then, like I said, we've got that whole list of 48 for you here at the end. But the first couple are more about stories that you're looking for. Tell me about a recent setback you had. How did you recover from that? What do you wish you had known before taking your first management role? You're really just trying to uncover stories here from your mentor. The next couple are more about situations that you might be in, like performance reviews. How do they appreciate their employees preparing for those? What do they like to see? Or a personal career transition that you're considering? What areas of the business might be a good fit for you from what they understand about you? These are things that your mentor might be able to help guide you through situations, right? Then it's also nice to be thinking about self-awareness, right? So thinking about what do you see as some of my blind spots, how I can improve. And as they get to know you better, they might have insights into some of the blind spots, and some of the ways that you talk that you may not recognize. So that can be helpful. Executive presence, improving your communication. Do you have any ideas on how you can do that? And they help you identify some things that might be lacking, kind of the gap, and ways to improve for what they see, right? And then next couple questions are more about things like skill building. Maybe and this is also kind of related to a situation too, like asking for a raise or promotion and role playing through that. You're building that skill of how to have a difficult conversation like that, which can be uncomfortable for a lot of people. Mentor can help you through that if that's in a situation that you're in. And then in a new initiative, also kind of situational, like, hey, what are some keys to success? What are some of the skills so they might provide you resources, they might provide you connections or other suggestions on ways to build the skills to lead that initiative effectively based on their experience. So they can't just give you these things, but they're going to provide you the direction, the insights, and the places to go look and invest in so that you can really accelerate these things. So hopefully these questions are helpful, and we'll have more for you in that guide here that we'll share with you here in a second. But man, we've covered a lot here so far. So we'll kind of wrap up and then give you the opportunity to ask some questions. So Pat, do you want to kind of wrap us up here and lead us into that section?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I get into things here, if you do have questions, if there's something that we've kind of piqued your curiosity or something that you wish we had covered, go ahead and add your question to the Q&A window there. There's already one question there, so that's great. To cover what we've already discussed here on mentorship. Mentorship really is it's a relationship, right? It's that relationship where someone who's a little more experienced, a little bit further down the path, or maybe a lot further down the path, helps someone who wants to take that path and helps them learn the lessons that the mentor has already learned and really fast track things. And as a result of that, it really can be the secret sauce to career growth. It can fast track your progress. It can prevent you from kind of digging yourself into rabbit holes and really see whether or not a particular path is what you want, right? And if it is, to really to run that down much faster. And then Jeff talked a lot about how to identify mentors, the kinds of questions you can ask yourself, where you can and should be looking for mentors, both within your organization and outside, and then how to build transformational mentoring relationships, and how to really kind of transcend that. I'm going to ask you questions, you're going to answer, and that'll be that. To really form a strong bond, a transformational relationship, and offered some ideas on how to how to get the party started, some conversations started, some things that no matter what you're looking to be mentored in, really can serve to fuel that relationship and get things started. So for next steps, we've got a number of things here for you. I'm gonna look at two different screens here because I want to share these links in the chat window. As Jeff already mentioned, we've got a set of 48 questions. So this is the download link for that. You can get that for free. And then there's also the free Leadership 101 for Engineers book there as well. So those are the links there. You can download those for free. and I'm going to share, if you've not already connected with us on LinkedIn, both Jeff and I are very, very active on LinkedIn. It's a great way to reach out to us and to dig in more if you'd like. If you have any follow-on questions, we're always there to serve and to help and to mentor. Frankly, this is something we're both very passionate about. So hopefully, all of those are very helpful to you. Now, the very last thing we wanted to touch on is Jeff and I are planning on a much larger online event, something we're calling the Engineering Career Summit, where we would discuss topics like mentorship, like leadership, career planning. There's quite a bit we could go into, that we want to go into. We want to make this a huge event with lots of speakers. But before we kind of double down on that, we want to ask for your help and your advice, and to make sense of the kinds of questions and things that you want to know about. So if you click that link, and actually for those of you who are on the webinar right now, you'll automatically get a link to this as soon as we're done the webinar, so you don't have to worry about the link. It'll take you to a very short survey where you can help us understand what the challenges are in your career, the things that you're facing, and the kind of things that you'd like to hear about, so that whatever we plan ends up being exactly the kind of thing that you would benefit from. Jeff, I don't know if there was anything I missed there.
No, I think that's awesome. Encourage you guys to, like Pat said, connect with us on LinkedIn, grab those free resources, and we would love the feedback on topics and other things. As Pat and I, it'll be a while before we put together this kind of event. We may do some kind of smaller mid-size events before we get to the big thing that we've been talking about. It might be kind of fun, but it's a lot to put together. And so we want to make sure we do it right. And that's why this feedback is really critical.
Yeah, super helpful.
Anyway, let's get into questions, shall we? So we've got a few here, and didn't give us their name, but any words of advice for finding a mentor when you're fresh out of university and haven't found your first engineering job? Well, I think as far as advice goes, I'll answer this, and then Pat, maybe you can share your insights.
Sure, yeah.
Here. But the same basic principles apply that we talked about here. Identifying those ideas. But for you, if you are looking for your first engineering job, you might be more focused. Obviously, there's not really an internal mentor that you're looking for, but you're looking for someone in an industry or in a company that you are interested in working for. And I've had clients that have done this, where they identify some people that they're interested in connecting to, and they really, one client of mine had someone where they reached out, they connected, and this person didn't necessarily have opportunities inside of their company that they could help them try and get, but this person was very much interested in mentoring. And so he said he gave him all sorts of ideas on how to train, gave him extra insights into resumes and things in the industry, and they had multiple meetings, and was willing to do anything that he could just because he wanted to help. And he really saw, and they made a personal connection, and he liked to do that. And so reaching out, just starting with those first questions: who could you learn from? Who is in an industry or doing things that you maybe want to be 5, 10, 15 years from now? And trying to reach out to them, giving the asking for that first conversation, seeing if there's opportunities for more. That's really how it works. It's, sometimes we overcomplicate it, and the more you ask, the more opportunities you'll have, and the more likely you'll find kind of that right mentor. Because the first person you talk to probably won't be that, but eventually you'll find someone who's really quite helpful. I found if we keep trying at it. Any other thoughts, Pat?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good answer. My advice would be to reach out to the people who are already in your sphere, right? Like professors often are very well connected to the local community. within your department of whatever discipline you're interested in, there's someone who's got some sort of connection to the industry or company that you're interested in. So don't be afraid to reach out to the academics in your life. And the other thing is, LinkedIn is phenomenally powerful in terms of finding people who work in industries or organizations you're interested in. And I'd recommend a book called What Color Is Your Parachute from, what's his name? Bowles, I think it is. And he talks about an approach to informational interviews and really spells out how to approach someone that you don't know in a way that is, safe and professional and not overbearing. And it, like you said, Jeff, it might not be that that person becomes a mentor, but could bring you a step closer to someone within an organization or an industry that you're interested in. The other very powerful place to find people is in professional associations. If you're an electrical engineer, join IEEE. If you're a mechanical engineer, join ASME. These kinds of organizations are there in part to facilitate you meeting people, right? This is part of the point. So do get involved in your local chat. Engineers Without Borders, it doesn't really matter. Choose something that you're interested in. That's a great resume builder as well, by the way, just being a member of these kinds of organizations. And you'd be amazed who you bump into. But very, very good question. Very good question. All right, let's tackle the next one here from Joseph. In a scenario where you are an employment seeker and your desired mentor is working in a company you would like to work in, how do you navigate the relationship without looking like an opportunist? Yeah, it's a really good question, Joseph. And again, I refer back to What Color Is Your Parachute and informational interviews. That I think that's a good way to approach things. And I guess for me, probably the best advice that I've ever heard is if you can find a way to genuinely provide value to someone, that's a good place to start. If you find someone on LinkedIn and you notice they post about a certain topic or are involved in a certain thing, if there's someone, something as simple as sharing an article, like if someone's into, I don't know, you name it, artificial intelligence, and they post a lot about it, go try and find something interesting on artificial intelligence and share it with them, right? It's a simple gesture. It shows that you're not there just for yourself. You are actually interested in providing value to a person. And it's a good icebreaker, right? Jeff, do you have any suggestions here?
No, I think those are fabulous ideas, and certainly if you're going on LinkedIn, there's ways to kind of stand out a little bit differently and show that you're really interested in them, not just sharing the exact same message with them. Like on LinkedIn now, especially in the app on your phone, you can send audio or even video personalized messages to people. And man, if someone sees that you did that to them, that's gonna kind of take the conversation to the next level. Like, oh, this person didn't just copy and paste things. They really wanted to talk to me, and they're really showing interest here, which it doesn't happen very often. I get a lot of LinkedIn messages. I get very, very few audio and video. So if you did that, you definitely stand out with the if they get a lot of messages. So a way to kind of invest in that relationship and show that you're really interested in talking to them personally. Right. Okay. So I'm going to address Eugene's question here, partly because Eugene's talking about me. So Eugene and I have been working together for a few weeks now in one of my coaching programs, and so he's asking, what's the difference between a career coach and a mentor? Seems like kind of hits all the bullet points mentioned. Well, I hope that's true. Pat and I, in our coaching and mentoring roles, with some of the things we try and do, we hope we fill that mentorship role, which is one of the reasons why we focus on engineering domains in general, because we have that background, and so we like to bring some of that domain knowledge that we have in addition to the mentoring and coaching guidance that we provide. And so that's something that's important to Pat and I, which is why we have focused on that in our work. And so, yeah, sometimes coaches can provide all those things that a mentor does. But I would encourage you to, as you're continuing to go through, even if you have a focused, coach, that maybe that's a coach-client relationship. Mentors, certainly again inside of your company or other people, sometimes just out of the bottom of their heart, and they want to help you. They're willing to do that, and so still be seeking out multiple other mentors and things in addition, even if you have a focused coach that you're working diligently through a program to help you learn specific skills and reach specific goals. Mentors probably aren't going to be that focused and that invested in the amount of time that they can give you, but they can do different things that um, So any other thoughts on that, Pat?
Yeah, I guess I maybe didn't do it justice when I covered the topic. I painted a bit of a picture that they are, two different topics. In practice, coaching and mentorship it exist on a continuum, right? And like Jeff said, we benefit from having industry experience. I'm a systems engineer. I can still speak comfortably to civil engineers, even though my technical background is different. I can still kind of get it a little bit better than someone whose background is maybe HR, for example, right? Just a totally different field. I think one of the big hallmarks that differentiates between coaches and mentors is that a coach would probably focus more on the side of developing mindset and skill set, right? Where a mentor would focus more on kind of the experience and the technical nitty gritty of their path, right? So but again, there's overlap, right? So it's a very good question. It's a very good question.
Yeah.
We've got one last question in the hopper here that we'll tackle live from Ryan. And if anyone has any others, but by all means, you can add it to the queue. Ryan's asking, have you had more mentors from the same function or mentors from different functions? Which relationships have you found most beneficial? Oh, that's a really good one. And I guess I personally have had mostly mentors within my function, right? I've had mentors who were who had the same technical background, and the reason for that is I've wanted to pursue additional steps in my technical background, right? So I look for people who are on the same path or have clearly made it further on down the path. Now, the story that I told earlier about Flavio is a civil engineer and really hadn't done any hardcore engineering for years. He was a partner in a firm, right? He was a business guy. He was a manager. And that relationship, like I said, was very powerful, right? So you can kind of pick your mentors to bolster and develop in yourself a multifaceted career, right? So for me, I'm someone who's always, or since having Flavio as a mentor, really learned that I wanted to straddle the technical world and the business world, right? So my mentors have been on either side of that, not too far on either side, right? Who, I've talked to managers who are in the engineering world, right? So I've kind of veered around that trajectory over the course of my career and benefited from it all. Well, what about you, Jeff?
Yeah, and I'll just say that I've experienced some of both. As I've had opportunities and had multiple times in my career where I've experienced career shifts and been kind of at points where I wasn't sure exactly what my next career move was. I was kind of unsatisfied, felt unsettled with what I was doing. And so I explored. So appreciated people, in the engineering world that I've learned from along the way, in the business world. even, in establishing my business, been learning a lot from like marketing professionals, because I need to be able to learn how to put my name out there and deliver more content and things to more people, because of to share the work that I do now. And so that's a new kind of mentorship that I wouldn't have been pursuing before. And my mentor, I mentioned earlier, he's not an engineer; he's a plant physiologist. But he's also a business owner, and he does other things too. And so uh, anything, again, anyone who you can learn from, doesn't necessarily need to be that specific domain that you're in. But I'm kind of a wide interest kind of guy. I'm always trying to learn new things, and that's just it's actually one of my strengths finder things, is I'm a learner. If anyone's heard of strengths finder, but um, always interested in that stuff. But yeah. Anyway, but guys, thank you so much for being here, sticking with us. This has been a pleasure. I don't see any other questions, but we hope you've gotten something out of this. Hope you can go grab those resources and connect with us. Ask us more questions. We want to help. This is stuff we love to do, and I think someone was asking about like resumes and stuff like that. That's a lot of what I help people with career transitions and stuff. So if you can, feel free to reach out to me on that. And then anything else you want to say, Pat, before we kind of button things up here?
No, just thanks for joining us. As always, this is a lot of fun. So and thank you, Jeff. We'll be doing it again soon, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. So stay tuned with us, and we'll try and keep you updated on things coming up. We'll have some more webinars and events coming up here in the next few months. We'll periodically be doing them, so stay tuned. But thanks again. Everyone have a great night.
All right, take care, everyone.